What's up everyone, Taiki here, and in this video I wanted to give an update to my AAVE thesis. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and check out the premium Discord. The link will be in the description below. So last month, or late July, I essentially said, hey, I bought some AAVE at $92 and I'm gonna be staking it. And I also mentioned that I think AAVE ETH has bottomed. And this is important because, not only is ETH underperforming, right? But if you're holding an altcoin that's underperforming ETH, then that's a nightmare, right? You're taking on so much risk, and you're underperforming ETH, which seems like a cucked asset for now. And at the at the date of recording last month, it was roughly at 0.028, and right now it's sitting at roughly 0.0539, 0.054, let's say. So we've essentially 2x'd, and I think this is important because AAVE ETH, if you look at this, ratio, we've kind of been going down only, right? Lower lows, lower highs for essentially 3 years. And the fact that we seem to be finally putting in a higher high, of course, it's not confirmed yet, but it seems like we are putting in a higher high. And perhaps, this level can be resistance. Maybe we're going to put in an inverse head and shoulders or something. Honestly, I don't really know what's going to happen in the short term, but I think the macro trend, the overall trend is going to be up for the AAVE ETH ratio. And for that reason, I think AAVE USD becomes more of an attractive investment. So why did I think AAVE ETH was going to bottom? I've been calling for this DeFi Renaissance, right? It seems like people have gone way too, are like way too one-sided on one side of the pendulum, where they're just buying meme coins, saying everything else is worthless. But maybe, right, we can go back from financial nihilism to fundamentals. It seems like people are getting jaded. People want to believe in something. I want to believe in something. And I think AAVE is one of those things that, I think people can actually, make a bull case for. But of course, the reason I thought, AAVE ETH has bottomed kind of goes back to my analysis of Maker ETH last year. So back in July of 2023, I said that, hey, I think Maker has bottomed. And the reason Maker did bottom against ETH is because of their buyback proposal, essentially saying, hey, we have a bunch of money, we're going to start buying back the token. So this was July of last year, and this was basically back around here, right? And since then, Maker ETH essentially bottomed, and it's up basically 2x, and at the peak it was roughly a little bit over 3x. So for the same reason, I just think that for most of these valueless governance tokens, they are valueless and worthless until they're not. And I just think that once there's some timeline or some hope for value accrual, I think people are gonna find reasons to make a bull case for these type of assets. And of course, if you're as deep into DeFi as me, I can front run these flows because I know all these governance proposals. I know when they're gonna happen roughly, and that's essentially the bull case I I laid out in late July. Of course, a lot of things have happened since late July. For example, I guess looking at ETH, right? Since July 30th, this ETH, right, really painful. It's just been down only. It's been pretty bad. But I also think that this kind of highlights, the Lindy effects and the strength of things like AAVE. For example, Stani, who is the founder of AAVE, mentioned that in the early August liquidations, AAVE Treasury was rewarded with $6 million in revenue, right? Because whenever people get liquidated on AAVE, AAVE charges a small fee. And of course, right, eventually the $6 million is going to go into buybacks. And I think this is what's important. It's easy to punt meme coins or punt some random new coin because, oh, it's shiny and new. But rates are still high. I think people have a higher bar, a higher standard for allocating into altcoins. So, seeing metrics like this, right, which will eventually go into buybacks, I think, forms a bigger bull case for this type of asset. The timeline for the AAVE buybacks are still unclear. So this is coming from the buyback proposal that was laid out in late July. But essentially what needs to happen is first, the Go stablecoin to reach $175 million in supply or market cap, and then secondary liquidity to allow a $10 million swap size at 1% or less price impact. And also, essentially their economics have to improve. So these are essentially the 3 points that needs to happen. But I think point 3 has already happened. They just made $6 million a month ago. The treasury has roughly $70 million. I think that's fine. It's more so tracking the Go market cap. And once Go market cap hits 175, I think things are really going to get rolling. And last month it was sitting at roughly a little bit over 100. And right now at the date of recording, we're roughly at 126. I think this growth is pretty interesting. Also, because Go is going to be one of their profit drivers. Whenever you lend and borrow USDC, right? Or, AAVE doesn't make that much money, but if AAVE has their own stablecoin and they can charge their own borrow rate, like let's say ranging from 5% to 10%, that's all going to be revenue going to the DAO. So right now the growth of Go is being subsidized. So AAVE has a bunch of money in the treasury. They're paying people to stake Go. So it's not completely sustainable, but I think over time, they're going to be able to figure out ways to create demand for Go, build out liquidity, and I think this growth is very, impressive because if you look at other, let's say decentralized stablecoins, if you have Curve USD, basically just like losing like market share, right? People are just like not willing to hold on to the risk, and even DAI, right? I laid out the bull case like last year and whatnot, but if DAI is not growing, then it's kind of hard to be optimistic maker, and we also see other things happening in the ecosystem. I also laid out that when it comes to money markets, AAVE is essentially a bank. And when you're using a bank, you're essentially putting in your entire deposit, right? You want to borrow against Bitcoin, ETH, like whatever. You just put, like 100K with Bitcoin, borrow 50K of USDC. But like, what's the capital at risk? The 100K of Bitcoin. So if you're depositing money into a bank, you have to be able to trust that bank. And we've kind of seen ever since the dawn of time, right? AAVE has just continued to grow in market share, right? It's the green box or this green shaded area here. And I really wouldn't be surprised if AAVE has, let's say 70, 80, 90% market share by sometime mid to late 2025. And also, right, it's like, sure, there can be points programs and new tokens, but are you really going to be risking your entire deposit for, let's say, 5%, 10% more yield? I don't really think it makes sense, right? Just use AAVE. So I think like this lendiness is important, and we also see this where when it comes to partnerships, people don't want to partner with Compound or Morpho or anything, right? Even though I'm sure they have partners and they will have partners, but the big guys, they're going to partner with AAVE. For example, Maker, they're going to rebrand to Sky, which is a whole other topic that I'm not really going to get into. But of course, if you're creating a stablecoin, you need to be on AAVE, right? Because that's where all the capital is. So Sky is essentially, or Maker, right? Formerly Maker, is essentially saying, hey, if you integrate USDS, which is the new version of DAI, right? They're just rebranding the entire thing. We're gonna just incentivize it. So if you have USDS and you're putting it into AAVE, then Maker/Sky will give you more tokens, which is good, right? AAVE is gonna utilize external incentives to drive TVL growth and profitability for their own DAO. We also saw, AAVE Labs proposing to integrate the stability module with BlackRock's BUIDL fund, right? So this is like the tokenized treasury RWA fund, and essentially, BlackRock essentially has like $500 million, I believe, in treasuries and stablecoins, and AAVE wants to partner with them. And like thinking realistically, is BlackRock going to partner with AAVE or some like the 60th version of like a money market fork or AAVE fork that no one's heard of with like a $10 million market cap with like $500 million FDV, right? Like definitely not. And even yesterday, there was this proposal of this Trump DeFi project where the founders are linked to like some project called DeFi Finance, which had like a $2 million DeFi hack. I mean, it's not a great look, right? It seems like a really low effort project where the Trump family seems to be like trying to, I guess, make themselves look better against like the DeFi community, crypto community, which is like fine, right? I mean, at least they're trying something. That's, you can't say that for other politicians and whatnot. And apparently this is being built on Ethereum and AAVE. So on first thought, I thought they're gonna be forking AAVE, right? So like fork AAVE, drop a token on top, and then pump the token or something. But apparently, so I mean, I could be wrong. We don't really have the white paper yet. But apparently, it's a front end for AAVE. So if you go to this World of Liberty Finance or whatever this thing is called, and you deposit like $100,000 worth of ETH, it's $100,000 worth of ETH on their front end, but the capital is actually going through AAVE, right? So it's, I guess it's good for them, right? Because if they fork something, then they can mess it up. But if they just make a front end for AAVE, then they can't really mess up, right? And then you put the token on top, charge fees or something. I'm sure people are going to try to pump it and whatnot. I mean, it's not bearish AAVE, right? I mean, it's incrementally bullish AAVE. So I guess I'm all for it, right? I mean, this was certainly not on my bingo card, right? But I guess, the point is, right? It's like it doesn't really matter that Trump is like, creating this new DeFi project, right? Because this is not going to succeed, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point it'll succeed in the short term, but people are eventually going to be like, like why does this thing have any value? Unless he like borrows against his hotels or something. But the point is, AAVE, right? If you're partnering with the lending protocol, if you're putting sizable deposits into a bank, just use AAVE. It makes no sense. And I just think it's interesting because I think AAVE is a good bet on, I guess, DeFi growing. Just, making a bet that if DeFi TVL grows, then AAVE TVL will grow. And if AAVE market share grows relative to other lending markets, then they're essentially going to have a monopoly on the entire money market space. And what premium do you put on that? I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what the upside for things like AAVE is. Right now it's like at 132. There's been a lot of volatility, right? But if just think about it, right? I mean, since late July, the markets have nuked, whereas AAVE is up. And you can see this in the AAVE ETH and AAVE Bitcoin ratios. Kind of going over here. Right, AAVE ETH is going up, and then AAVE Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's been stronger than ETH, so obviously it hasn't. We haven't put in higher highs than here. But I think once we let's say get above 0.0027, I just think the market is going to start to appreciate the fact that AAVE, right, probably has bottomed against ETH, probably bottomed against Bitcoin. Okay, how much upside does it have? I have no idea, right? I'm not here to bring price targets and whatnot. But as the most Lindy, as the most valuable bank in all of DeFi, all of crypto, I don't think it's infeasible for this thing to hit all-time highs. So that's kind of the case I'm laying out. And I've been saying that, hey, I believe in this DeFi renaissance. I think the entire crypto industry has gone way too one-sided into just meme coins and everything is worthless. Let's just buy scams. Let's promote scams. And if I make money from a scam, it's okay, right? That's not really the world I want to live in. So I guess like my goal here is, hey, like everyone thinks these DeFi tokens are worthless. I'm on I'll take the other side of that, right? I think 99% of these tokens are worthless, but the 1% that are worth something, I think they can have a renaissance, right? They can have their day in the sun. And it's like, maybe I'll buy other DeFi coins too. And I actually bought another DeFi coin today, which I'm, it's more of like a shorter to medium term. Actually, it kind of depends. The thesis is still being laid out. But if you want to know what that is, make sure to check out the premium Discord. I share a lot of my theses on other coins. I also share premium videos 3 times a week. I think it's one of the better DeFi communities out there. Essentially, if you DeFi is a lot of work, right? So just let me do all the research for you, so you can focus on what you do best. That's kind of that's kind of the pitch. And also, I highly suggest people listen to this. So I posted this roughly a week ago, and I had Arthur 0x kind of talk about the bull case for AAVE and whether things like Lido is investable, Uniswap is investable, Maker is investable, the effects of rate cuts on DeFi, the perp landscape. The whole Vitalik, saga, right? Like, he doesn't like DeFi, with like my podcast and like Steady Lads and whatnot. Solana DeFi, right? Why Jupiter is kind of interesting. So I think this was kind of like a masterclass on the current DeFi landscape. So I highly suggest everyone check this out. And to wrap up the video, like my general view is that, I think generally the market has. It's pretty clear that there are certain winners in the market, right? Like Uniswap, probably the number 1 DEX, AAVE, number 1 lending market. And it's going to be really difficult for any new project to flip them. So I think it makes sense to bet on category leaders, essentially. That's kind of like the view that I have. And AAVE is one of them. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully AAVE does well, right? I'm kind of betting on it. All my AAVE is staked. I haven't sold a single AAVE. And who knows, maybe I'll buy more, right? If I happen to get some airdrop stimulus. Thanks for watching. See you guys another time. Bye-bye.